we speak, Prime Minister Modi has just addressed the Sri Lankan Tamils a short while back, and interestingly, he's chosen the platform to invoke the legacy and memory of MGR. And here's what Prime Minister Modi has said, and I quote, "A national icon of India from later years, MGR was born on this very soil, establishing a lifelong connection." Before we get to our correspondent Lokpriya, who's of course been reporting from Sri Lanka, from Colombo, let's listen in to those exact words of Prime Minister Modi.
Another national icon of India from later years, Pratajit Talaivar MGR was born on this very soil, establishing a lifelong connection. And in more recent times, you have gifted to the world one of the finest spinners in cricket, Muthaiya Muralitharan.
Let's get in those details there. Our correspondent Lokpriya with further inputs here. Lokpriya, help us understand the reason why Prime Minister Modi chose to raise the legacy and memory of MGR.
Well, we need to remember, first of all, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is catering to all sections of Sri Lankans. While inaugurating the UN Vesak ceremony, he had talked about the shared heritage of India and Sri Lanka, that of Buddhism. He was addressing a gathering that consisted of Buddhists largely, and now he addressed the gathering at upcountry in Kandy, where he had addressed the Indian origin plantation workers and mostly Tamil people, and there he had invoked the legacy of MGR. MGR, in fact, is son of the soil. He was born in Kandy. So, in a way, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants to connect with all sections of Sri Lankan people. Joining me now is M.A. Sumendran, the MP from Tamil National Alliance. Sir, how do you see the strategy of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? He is catering to all sections of Sri Lankan. In a way, he is not differentiating between Buddhists or the Tamil people.
That's a welcome approach from our perspective as well, because for long India has been viewed with suspicion, particularly by the majority Sinhala Buddhists of this country. But they must realize that India is interested in all the people of Sri Lanka. And this visit, being primarily for the purpose of celebrating International Vesak Day, is a significant one, because he is seen then as a friend of the Buddhists, and in India as friend of Buddhists as much as anyone else in this country. First time an Indian Prime Minister is meeting the Indian origin Tamils in the upcountry, and that's also a very welcome move. For long they have been the oppressed people in this country. He has previously connected with the Tamils in the north and the east, and we are about to meet him in a little while. And so India's concern with regard to a political settlement, the northeast issue, still remains. But at the same time, the Prime Minister has given a very clear message that India does not differentiate between the different peoples of this country, that India is a friend of all of us here.
So when you or leader are scheduled to meet sometime next month or so, what are the issues that you will be taking up? So we still do have the problems of fishermen, devolution of land in the northern region. So what is going to be the broad areas that you will be discussing with Prime Minister Modi?
When we meet him in a couple of hours at the Katunayaka airport before he flies off to India, we will talk to him about the effort to draft a new constitution for Sri Lanka, where all the peoples of the country will be represented. India has offered its good officers since 1987 Indo-Lanka Accord, and this is a continuing process. So India would like to see this process succeeding. And so we will talk to him about the developments in that, concerns we have, and India's gentle nudging and encouragement to the Sri Lankan government to take this to a finish, to make it a success. With regard to the fishermen issue, of course, in the last few months, when we've had these several rounds of talks between the ministers and officials, I've been a part of the ministerial delegation, we have made progress. India, together with Sri Lanka, has agreed to ban the practice of bottom trawling. And I think that accounts for more than 90% of the problem. The question of crossing the international maritime border is something that has been happening from time immemorial, and that fishermen will stray. That is not a serious issue.
Also, sir, do you think the relationship of India and Sri Lanka is at a better place now with this present dispensation than what it was before 2015?
Certainly, the present dispensation in Sri Lanka is very friendly towards India. It takes on board the Indian concerns for security of the Indian Ocean region and also India's concerns for the Tamil people in this country. It's very different to a rather hostile government that was in place prior to 2015. They probably paid lip service to friendship with India, but in action, Indian interests were not even looked at. So I agree with you. We are in a much better place today.
Also, sir, there is also the large concerns of the presence of China in Sri Lanka. Though both Sri Lanka and India do not talk about it openly, Sri Lanka does have sent signals by not allowing a Chinese submarine to be docked in Sri Lanka. How do you see Sri Lanka trying to assuage these fears from India, sir?
Well, India need not fear. The Sri Lankan connections to China, again, are centuries old, but that's trade related. And Sri Lanka is still renewing those contacts. We need China in trade. But with regard to a place for India, certainly China cannot compete. Sri Lanka is just in the backyard of India. And certainly the Indian concern for security of the region is paramount. And Sri Lanka is very conscious of that. And that will never be compromised.
So there you have the MP talking about a wide range of issues, clearly saying that India and Sri Lanka's relationship
Lokpriya,
dates
stay on
back
with us, please, because we're also getting in more political reactions here on this. Getting in a word here from the DMK, Manu Sundaram with us. Thanks for being with us. In your view, of course, this keeping in mind a recent quote there that's coming from Prime Minister Modi in naming MGR, saying several significant personalities, national icon MGR was one who was born on this very soil in Sri Lanka.
Well, with regard to that, I think Mr. Modi and the BJP seem to have been taking an undue interest in the ADMK party and its politics of late. But, you know, coming to the practicalities of the issue, I have just 2-3 quick points to make. One is, we really hope that during the Prime Minister's high-level engagement in Sri Lanka, he continues to emphasize the need for better relationship between the Sri Lankan Navy and the Indian fishermen, where the Indian fishermen have been continuously assaulted. Their boats have been captured and not returned, and they've been put to untold hardship.
Right.
Secondly, I welcome Mr. Prime Minister Modi speaking so eloquently on the Tamil language, but let us just hope that this translates into actual policy in his own country of India, where we feel, most Tamils feel that there is...
Okay, but Manu Sundaram, do you think it's fair on your part to draw the line in this manner just because he's raised, invoked the memory of MGR there, given that this was relevant? He was just, of course, trying to start out on a warm note for the first time, addressing Sri Lankans of Tamil origin, saying that even one of ours, a national icon of ours, MGR, was born there. Why would you want to like to draw this line as something as Prime Minister Modi really wanting to try reach out to the AIDMK here?
No. See, if he wanted to reach out to the Sri Lankan Tamils there, I do not think invoking MGR's legacy is the best way to do it, because Sri Lankan Tamils have very great leaders, and I'm sure you know many of them yourself. But clearly by reaching out to, or rather by speaking about MGR, he's only really trying to reach out to one section of the Tamil population in India, which is the ADMK party. I think that's a pretty well understood and well established fact. Now, he's also spoken about the houses. Now, that is something that I think in the UPA 2 regime they started, and they promised to build 50,000 houses for the internally displaced persons, people who lost homes due to the final stages of the Sri Lankan civil war. And I hope that the Indian government carries that too, because our estimate currently is about only 10,000 out of the 50,000 promised houses have been built. So these are practical things which need to be, really done for Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan Tamils, the refugees, those who have been caught and who have been put to hardship because of the war. So that's what the emphasis from this trip should be on.
Okay, appreciate that view coming in. Please stay on with us once again and listen in to that statement that Prime Minister Modi chose to make.
Another national icon of India from later years, Pratachit Talaivar MGR was born on this very soil, establishing a lifelong connection. And in more recent times, you have gifted to the world one of the finest spinners in cricket, Muthaiya Muralitharan.
Our correspondent Lokpriya with us from Colombo, getting us more reactions here on the kind of statement there that Prime Minister Modi has made just a short while back. Lokpriya, this is how the DMK here in Tamil Nadu chooses to view this, saying that it's of no help really to just invoke the memory of MGR, saying that we can reach or relate to you because one of our national icons was born on this very soil in Sri Lanka as well. What would be more important perhaps would be for the government of India in helping in the upliftment of the living conditions in their 5-year national plan of action there for the Tamils of Sri Lankan origin there.
Well, definitely, as Tamil political parties for long now have emphasized on the need for a permanent solution when it comes to the issue of fishing and also on the living conditions of the Sri Lankan Tamils over here. Yes, there is a new government in place in the northern province and the government is looking into the issues. But the politicians back in Tamil Nadu want to ensure that the Prime Minister looks into this issue as well. But whereas New Delhi's policy is slightly different, they want to reach out to the entire community of Sri Lanka. They do not want to differentiate between Sinhala and Tamils, and that is the reason why we saw Modi balancing it out today while he addressed a gathering of Buddhist people in the morning. He did go travel up country, met with the Indian origin plantation workers, in a way reaching out to both Sinhala and Tamil communities and telling them that India is here for Sri Lanka. It is here as a friend, as a partner to ensure that Sri Lanka and help Sri Lanka in its nation building process.
All right, wanting to strike that balance here is what you're pointing out, Lokpriya. Thank you for those updates there. We'll leave it at that.